Hi, and welcome to another monthly broadcast. This time I'm joined by one of my colleagues, Patrick.
Hi, everyone.
Obviously, we know that all of you are joining from lots of different places, so it'd be great to hear where you're joining from. Just put it on the chat, and then we'll see how many people we have from everywhere. But this time in our monthly broadcast, we're going to cover quite a few topics. First up, we have BuyerDoc joining us. BuyerDoc is a very close partner of ours. We work with them a lot. And they actually have a very important update that they want to give you. It's an update that's going to affect your labeling. So that's why it's important that you make sure that you change things now in order to have the processes in place for when this does come into effect. So they'll be joining us first, so stay tuned for that.
After BuyerDoc, I'll be giving a short update about the VAT preparations ahead of Prime Day.
After Patrick, Yuri's going to be joining us to discuss the tightening requirements that the Italian authorities are putting in place. Once Yuri's finished, we also have Lewis joining us with a very important topic. I'm sure you've all heard about the Trump tariffs coming into place. So we're just going to analyze those and explain a bit how this could be affecting your e-commerce business.
Next up, Laura will discuss how the EU will hold marketplaces accountable for dangerous or illegal goods sold on their platforms. And lastly, some information about the Amazon tracking rate policy update presented by our colleague Hannah.
As always, please leave your questions on the chat throughout the whole broadcast. Patrick and I will then join you at the end to answer all these questions. Don't forget, also put where you're joining us from. We'd love to see where everyone's coming from and join us in this broadcast. But again, leave the questions on the chat and we'll get to them at the end. Hi everyone, so as I mentioned, I have Kevin with me today from BuyerDoc. Thank you, Kevin, for coming.
Thanks for inviting us.
Kevin, tell us a bit, who is BuyerDoc?
So, BuyerDoc is a SaaS platform, a digital platform for those that don't know what SaaS means, because everybody has different questions. We are a platform that enables brands to become compliant with moving pieces within the market, such as GS1 QR codes that are required, such as regulations, Tri-Man, people will hear about the Tri-Man logo in France, and of course digital product passports. So we pride ourselves on having a platform that's super easy to use and fast and efficient, of course, and that always is ahead of itself with regulations.
Amazing, and these are obviously keywords that everyone would have heard of. We're always talking about compliance, especially on the broadcast. We focus more on EPR, which is something that's recently come into place, but it's very necessary to sell on Amazon or any platform as such. Cool. And now this is coming in as well. And there's very important things that we want to make sure that everyone knows about today because it's going to affect you selling online.
Correct. And we work very closely with GS1 actually. So we were the first company really in the world that was signed off by GS1 to deliver the QR code. So barcodes are going to become QR codes, okay? Yeah. As a starting point. So, I mean, everyone watching this will know that you need to have a GS1 compliant barcode number to sell on Amazon or anywhere nowadays, shopping or TikTok, Google, etc. So we have the ability to create something that looks like a QR code, but actually does the same as a barcode does. And that's just a start.
Yeah, it's huge, and it's going to become more and more important, isn't it?
It's major. So at the moment, all the major retailers, all the major FMCGs that anyone's ever heard of globally. Yeah. I'm talking the Walmarts, the Sainsbury's, the Tesco's, the Woolworths in Australia, are all trialing QR codes at point of sale. Okay. So if you sell on Amazon, but you want to sell, in retail too, this is something to consider today. But there's more implications coming, and we can discuss those. Yeah,
perfect. So you've mentioned GS1. There's also the term DPP. So what are the differences? What do people need to understand?
Okay, so GS1 is something we deliver. So if you imagine you've got any product. Yep. Where you've got a barcode on it today, you need to have a QR code sat next to it. Yeah. They both do exactly the same. That's kind of all you need to know at this point. Our QR codes are completely compliant with GS1's global requirements. DPP however, is something that's going to really catch a lot of people out if they're not careful.
Yeah.
And that's particularly in those in the fashion, textiles and shoes space. It doesn't matter what size the company is.
No.
It doesn't matter where you're based. If you sell a product in Europe, you need to have a digital product passport.
Okay.
So what does that mean? It needs to be a QR code on the product. So like with textiles, if anyone who sells clothing right now, you have to have a part of the Tryman logo on your care label.
Yeah, actually. Yeah.
This is another level with the QR code on that care label too. And why it's so crucial for us to be talking to Avast people now is that time is running out to get it on product. We work with a company called Byways who print 1 billion care labels a year. They're based in the UK. And we've worked out a timeline for brands of any shape or size. Anything that's spring, summer, autumn, winter 26 is going to need to have a QR code on now.
Yeah.
What it displays doesn't matter today, but getting it on product today, so when it hits the warehouses in Europe, if it's in Amazon's warehouses, wherever it may be, at least you know that that's ready to be built upon.
I think that's the key.
It's the takeaway for the whole thing.
If you could take anything away from this broadcast, is that make sure that is on there. As you mentioned, it could just link to your website for now, but at least you have the option of then updating it.
Correct.
We actually have some products, don't we?
We have, yeah. I mean,
to show.
This is probably for the digital product passport phase 1, which is fashion, textiles and shoes. You need to be looking at this. So anyone watching this, if you've got a care label, talk to your label supplier, talk to us, we can introduce you to our guys. You need the QR code on the product.
Important.
But there's another level to it. You need that QR code serialized. Now, I don't want to confuse things. We can talk about this further later. But if you imagine a scenario where, for example, you're selling a black T-shirt and it's medium, it's exactly the same T-shirt. So it's made and produced in Bangladesh today.
Yeah.
And they're all the same. Suddenly there's an issue with the supply chain within Bangladesh. So the digital product passport's asking for the supply chain, and it will be eventually 2033 from cradle to, from the field.
Yeah.
So if you suddenly find that your product may be now made in China, they're not the same potentially suppliers, potentially materials. So the only way of differentiating the two is a serial number.
Yeah.
So you've got the QR code, which is a URL with the barcode number attached to it. And then you've got the serial number at the end of it. So it's 3 steps. If you do that today, as you say, you can go to any website. It doesn't matter where it goes to, but don't, for goodness sake, start with a QR code pointing to your website, because you cannot retrospectively do anything with it.
Yeah.
If you've got everything ready to go, then you can change anything in the future.
And the reason why we're saying this all now is because people will be manufacturing already, and they need to think about it now, don't they?
Exactly that, yeah. I mean, we were talking about these examples. Sorry, I meant to...
These are great.
So this is an example of a brand. It's a huge global brand, so we're tracking QR codes on their products in 105 countries. So these guys needed to use us to get the compliance. So we have a patented tool that delivers the Tryman logo, the Spanish logo, Portuguese, Italian logos, knowing that each logo is based on the packaging. These are the recycle logos. These guys use this. So I don't know if you can see on here, but it's quite a lot of text amongst that product. That was a quick oversticker to get compliancy. Knowing that our app is automatically translated anywhere in the world, you can see the difference between the two. It's less cluttered. There's more information but behind the QR code, and it's compliant for recycle logos, digital product passport, and for the GS1 move to the barcode across. So there are benefits of all of this. I mean, the reality is, if you do sell textiles, fashion or shoe, you've got to start now. Talk to anyone at Avast, they'll point you in the right direction, because it's my biggest fear as a company. Our brands coming to us in a year's time saying we need to print off millions of labels and then get someone to stick them on top of our products. And we've all been there for compliance.
Exactly.
It's a disaster.
So I guess on the topic of time frames, we're saying fashion brands need to start thinking about this now.
Yeah, fashion and textile. So like, it could be a dog blanket,
yeah,
serviette.
Yeah.
So then suddenly textiles is huge. Anyone selling tote bags is textile.
Yeah.
And shoes, anything in footwear, trainers, etc.
What about anyone else? What would time frame?
Coming down the line. So the time frame for these guys, 2027 is when the digital product passport is required. So the law is already there. It's been passed in July last year. So you've got until 2027. So our timeline for you guys, if you fit in that category, get the QR code on probably this quarter, next quarter, while you're creating spring, summer, autumn, winter 26. In 25, we're working with some of the biggest brands you've ever heard of. I can't say them, but
it's fine.
So these guys are now looking at the moment on the marketing side. So the digital product passport, which we can show you examples of later, is a marketing tool.
Yeah.
It's a post-purchase marketing tool. So imagine, start thinking a bit blue sky. You've got a product that can sell to you once you've bought it. So one of the brands we're working with, I can talk about, is Lopes shoes, and they want to encourage people who've bought their shoes to sign up for things.
Yeah.
If your shoes are worn out, you can send them back to Lopes. They'll repair them like a quarter of the cost.
Yeah.
That's part of the digital product passport. Right. The ability to repair, you need to know that. Yeah. So actually, where we've got Lopes already doing that, they can now tell you. And if you're buying a pair of Lopes from, say, Amazon or John Lewis or whomever, as a brand, you don't know your customer because they're all part of the loyalty schemes. And we all know that Amazon don't let you know who the customer is. But actually, because of the requirement for the digital product passport, this is your chance to try and find out who your customer is, offer them incentives, etc.
That's great. Yeah.
Cannot be, Amazon can't block you because it's a legal requirement. Exactly. Finally.
Yeah. That's a great point, because I guess with all these updates, everyone thinks of it as compliance and just another legislation that's coming into place, but you can make use of it.
Yeah.
So much more to it than just compliance.
It's interesting because actually the bigger the brands are, the more the marketing plays the biggest part of it. So you know what it's like if you're a small brand, and you guys will be used to this, is you're kind of trying to sell, I need to comply, quick sell. It's always a race, but this is just a way of bringing everything together and just gently
capturing information, everything. Great.
So, I guess back to the timeline, sorry. So 2027 is when you need to have things like supply chain information. You need to have things like how to repair, reuse, refurbish that product. So these can be formed by partnerships. So you might find there's a partner that refurbishes shoes or clothes or So time to start considering that whilst doing the marketing. 2027 is when it goes live, so make sure 26 you've got those partnerships and tools in place. 2030 is another launch of the next level of digital product passport, deeper, darker, more information required. 2033 is full circular economy thing. Yeah. We all hear about circular economy in ERPs. This is all part of that.
What we'll do a very in-depth session on this, where obviously this is just a snippet for everyone to understand what it is that you need, but we'll send out a link to everyone to join our more in-depth chat, just because there's so much to it, isn't there?
There's a lot. We've got a demystification brochure that we can share with anyone that wants it. I mean, it's just so crucial to be ready with the right foot today. You're talking about which categories come next. Beauty
is next.
Beauty, health, anything that fits within that, probably supplements, etc. And that, I don't know the exact dates. I imagine probably give the shoes and stuff a year, so maybe 28. So maybe that's something to start considering 26.
Okay.
For those categories, but at the moment I'm not seeing it on food.
Okay.
Or drink. However, thinking of the GS1 requirement, food and drink, when you've got the QR code that does all of that, you can also put expiry dates, you can put batch numbers built into the QR. And that's where the retailers really want to find out.
Right.
I had a meeting with a massive retailer, one of the biggest in the world, a bricks and mortar, sorry, for and they said to us, we just want to see if people are taking product from the back of the shelf when they're buying it. I was like, of course you are, because we want the oldest expiry date. That's what we do. You don't need a QR code to work that. But no, so they're all trialing it. So you make sure you're thinking about that, especially in food and drink. That's going to be the push play.
Perfect. So what would anyone watching today, what do they need to do in order to get this started?
First thing is, if you don't have GS1 barcode numbers, I suggest you kind of talk to GS1 UK. Yeah. Assume everyone does because they're on Amazon. Yeah. And if you don't, remember, you will need them. I think the first step is you've got to look at your products. If you're a fashion, textile, I keep saying it's fashion, textiles or shoes, you have to start the process today. And whenever you watch this, if you're watching this in July, August, September, if you could be too late, to just make sure you've got QR codes with serial numbers on your products as soon as possible. But yeah, the easiest thing, point them to a website. So point them to a landing page today. We can help you take you down the path of digital product passport quickly. And the fastest we've ever done it is 3,500 SKUs in like 10 minutes.
Okay.
So it's a speed process. You can upload CSV files, your data sheets from Amazon. We can take those. We can upload those instantly. APIs are there, etc.
Perfect. Great. Obviously, you've mentioned lots of different categories, lots of different dates. How would people watching today, how would you recommend that they keep up to date with all these changes?
There's two ways, really. One, try and find a really good consultancy.
Yeah.
Talk to these guys that have asked, who will be up to date with all of this. We'll feed it into you guys. Or there's another way. You can sign up to buy a doc. There's a channel called Fast Track. If you've not heard anything that resonates today with your particular type of product, sign up to Fast Track. It's free. You don't look at credit cards and stuff, and you'll get notifications if there's any changes required. For example, just the week before Christmas, everybody watching this will have suddenly heard about GPSR.
Yeah.
So GPSR, we had a ton of brands saying, "Oh my gosh, we've got products all around Europe," and they just updated one field on our QR code app, and it just broadcasted it straight away.
Yeah.
So so it's like, that's a great example of how these apps and how movable pieces on your product, the connected technology on your product, helps.
And there'll be so many more things like that.
Oh, there's loads.
Amazon is always changing.
Spanish logos. Did you hear about those?
Yeah,
that'll just delivered those. Yeah, they're already out, 1st of Jan. And Portugal too, which we're just building. There's like everything's coming at such a rate, but everything within the European digital, like the ERP, the whole circular economy thing, is meant to be digital. So right now we're all printing these Tri-Man logos on product, depending on the size. That's not part of the EU law. That's French law.
Yeah.
So knowing that everything's going to be digital behind the QR is just the way to go. I mean, there are other ways. RFID, you can use that. You can use NFC. But QR is what we need to really, yeah.
Great, Kevin. Well, thank you so much for all the information. I guess for anyone watching, if they don't happen to do this because it's not in their priorities right now, what would we expect to see happen to their products if they don't have this in place?
It's a great question. And it's one that I can share a couple of examples of. So we had a brand contact us, it would have been 2 or 3 years ago. Remember when the Italian Recycle logo, anyone watching this, you'll remember this, your Italian Recycle logo, they had all of their products removed from shelf from a retailer, a major supermarket, because they weren't compliant. So that's just an example. Another one had all of their products stopped at port in France because they weren't compliant with Tri-Man.
Yeah.
So the only thing that we can gauge on, and this has happened to a lot of brands, the only thing I would say is it's easier to be ready than to be not. So
deal with the consequences after.
Some of these multi-billion pound turnover companies we're working with have been told that they could lose market completely by not being compliant. So when that is, there's normally some form of sell-through, but it's easier to get it right now because it's such a simple thing to do today.
And we see that all the time. Things take time to put in place.
Yeah.
But once it's in place, it's all good. And you won't have any issues with your business.
Exactly that.
You're putting all this effort into actually building your brand, building your business. Tiny things like this can make such a difference.
Exactly. And knowing that the QR code, unlike a normal product packaging, which we've all got names and addresses of European people on, etc., but knowing your packaging can't adapt, but the QR, or the digital passport can adapt to anything. Literally anything.
Exactly. Great. Well, for anyone watching, is there anything else we should cover today if they were to take something away with them, what would it be?
I'll tell you what we should do. We should show the timeline on the screen now.
Great.
Because I think even if we just sit with a timeline for those in that space that need to do digital product passport now, this is your timeline.
Yeah.
Focus on that and just talk to people.
Well, thank you so much, Kevin, for joining us today. Very insightful, everything you said. Anyone watching today, if you have any questions, just go on the website and you can find out some more. Obviously, you mentioned about signing up as well to get the most up-to-date information. We are also going to do a blog post about this so everyone can read up on it, Call us if you have any questions as well. And as we mentioned, we'll do a more in-depth session just to cover everything. This is just a tiny bit of it. There's so much more coming. So we'll do a session on that. Thank you, Kevin.
My pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Amazon Prime Day is still a few months away, but it's important to start preparing now as it's one of the biggest sales events of the year. And if you're planning to expand into new markets, VAT registration could be the key to maximizing your sales. A local VAT number doesn't just keep you compliant, it gives you a real competitive edge. With a VAT number in your target country, you can reduce your FBA fulfillment fees, rank higher on search results, and ensure that you offer prime delivery to all of your customers, which in turn translates into more sales and more conversions. But here's the important part. VAT registrations in key markets could take up to 3 months. So if you want to be ready to sell on Prime Day later this year, now is the time to start these preparations. And if you're part of the Pan-EU program, the more VAT numbers you have, the greater the benefits. You can gain access to multiple fulfillment centers, maximize your Prime eligibility across Europe, and reduce the cross-border fees. So don't wait until it's too late. Get your VAT registration started now and be ready for Prime Day success. If you need help with the process, get in touch with our team today.
Italy has now introduced a new measure for non-EU business operating through a fiscal representative for VAT purposes. These changes aim to enhance transparency and tackle tax evasion. This measure will come into effect after a 120-day window for regulatory provisions. Key changes include stricter ethical and professional standards for VAT representatives. They must have no significant tax violation or criminal convictions and submit a formal self-declaration. VAT representative must also provide a financial guarantee valid for at least 48 months. These ensure they can meet VAT obligation, protecting your business operation. For non-EU seller, additional requirement includes a 50,000 guarantee for VS registration, valid for 36 months. Non-compliance could lead to cancellation of your VAT number and removal from VS. For more information, please feel free to contact us today.
Starting on the 10th of Feb, China will impose 15% tariffs on coal and natural gas and 10% on crude oil, agricultural machinery and cars, plus new export controls on key metals. This is a direct response to US tariff hikes, adding pressure to global supply chains. What's the impact? Higher costs for US sellers. Importing from China just got pricier, which is squeezing margins, which is a big opportunity for EU and UK sellers. With US sellers facing higher prices, European companies can be a bit more competitive. Having said this, navigating VAT, customs and compliance is key when expanding into the EU for international sellers. Because of these tariff responses to Trump's policies, here at Avask we're now already seeing an uptick of sellers looking for growth, expansion and increased profitability from EU markets. We have a wealth of experience in helping sellers avoid trade disruptions and maximize their profits. So if you'd like some advice on offsetting the burdens that Trump's new tariffs may bring you through European expansion, please feel free to contact us today.
The European Union plans to hold e-commerce platforms like Temu, Shein and Amazon liable for unsafe or illegal products that are sold online. So there's going to be a liability shift Platforms will be responsible for ensuring product safety and compliance with EU regulations instead of that falling to the consumer. And due to the high volume of imports currently, the EU is really struggling to check all the low-value parcels that are coming in from Asia, and specifically China. A lot of these products are failing to meet the safety standards. So we can expect a customs reform. So some of the changes would include requiring platforms to be the importer and also provide data before the goods arrive to make sure that they're compliant with EU regulations, and establish actually a brand new EU customs authority. Import duty is also going to change. So the current €150 threshold for import duties will be dropped by 2028. And all of these measures are really there to enhance consumer protection and also create a level playing field for the EU sellers in Europe.
There is an important update regarding the valid tracking rate or VTR policy for seller fulfilled orders. From the 25th of February 2025, Amazon will start enforcing the new VTR policy changes. These changes occur on January the 15th, 2025, where the policy was updated to enhance customer tracking visibility across more orders. VTR will now be measured on orders shipped through all shipping service providers, not just those integrated with Amazon. This update includes all cross-border orders shipments to and from Germany, France, Italy, Spain, the Netherlands, Portugal, Poland, Austria, and Sweden, except for orders under €20 using a letter shipping method. Remember, maintaining a minimum of 95% VTR at a category level is crucial. Providing tracking information not only improves customer experience, but also protects your account health metrics and helps address A to C guarantee claims. For more details, please visit your applicable Amazon store VTR page.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. We saw lots of questions on Buyer Doc. We do have Buyer Doc still on the chat, so if you still have any questions, just pop them on the chat and someone will be responding. I appreciate that there's so much to it, so we are going to do a full session about this. We'll send out an email to everyone so that you know exactly what date, what time you can join. It will be live, so if you still have questions, you can ask on the live session. So if any questions were still pending, you can still join to another session fully on this, and we can help you from there. We had a lot more topics as well, so if anyone has any questions on the other topics, do let us know. And it was also great to see how many people were joining from everywhere around the world, wasn't it? Yeah. Also a blog post, right?
Yes, yeah. So we've done a joint blog post, which you can find on our website, avas.com, if you'd like to learn more. And it's always a great way to keep on top of all the changes.
Yeah, perfect. Other topics that we've discussed today were VAT numbers. It's always a very important topic. It does take some time to get your VAT numbers, so just make sure if you're thinking ahead for the end of the year, I mean, you covered the topic, but if you're thinking ahead, just make sure you're doing it well in advance. Especially for Prime Day coming up soon. It's still a few months away, but if you're planning to expand into any market and want to really target that for Prime Day coming up, then it's best to just start these processes as soon as possible so that you're ready. Yeah. And I guess just like we asked you at the beginning where you were coming from, is there any topics that people want to hear about? You can obviously post them on the chat, we're happy to adapt to what people don't know about or want to know more about. So do pop on the chat if there's any topics that you would be interested in knowing more about, and we can do sessions on those. Great. Well, I think we'll hold on for a few more minutes, won't we? Just in case any last questions come through, and we can answer those for you. Andy's still on the chat if you have any questions for BuyerDoc. QR code is also still on screen, so you can use that one. Perfect. If anyone didn't get someone's contact details, you can always contact Avast if you want anyone's specific contact details. A more specific email address is also inquiries@avastgroup.com. So you can always email us on there and we can put you in contact with BuyerDoc. Yeah, perfect. I see Andy messaging on the chat. We'll offer the recording. I saw a question on that. We'll offer the recording, the blog post, the email addresses, everything on the email afterwards for anyone attending today. We've got a question on the screen. Do you have any information about the EU using the fallback method for valuing the goods being imported into the EU as a non-EU company? Yes, we have a whole section on this on our website, so we can send you a link directly to that. Stephen will make sure that that gets to you because it is quite in-depth. So I see a few questions on costs about BuyerDoc. Again, BuyerDoc can cover that, but don't forget we do have the whole session about this coming up soon, so you can obviously join that too. Yes, Andy mentioned as well we can price accordingly. Great. Anything else, Patrick?
No, I think that is all. If there's no further questions, make sure to check out our blog posts to learn more. And yeah, thank you so much for joining us, for being with us today. And any questions, feel free to get in touch.
Great. Thank you so much. See you in the next monthly broadcast.